Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill, I just wanted to clarify.
Senator Peralta on the bill.
I just wanted to clarify a few things because it was brought up. In New York, a woman says Uber driver grabbed, assaulted her on April 30th, 2015. In Brooklyn, an Uber driver exposed himself to sexually assault a passenger, February 29th, 2016. In New York, a New York-based journalist sexually harassed and stalked by Uber driver, March 28th, 2014. In fact, it's gotten so bad, the sexual assault situation, that Councilmember Kumbo introduced a bill to mandate that all drivers, including Uber and Lyft, get sexual assault training. Look, I think that, and I believe that upstate is capable of regulating themselves. I believe that. I agree that we can leave it up to the localities, but let's mandate it. Let's mandate that they regulate, not an option for them to regulate. Let's mandate. And what that is, it's up to the localities. That can be up to Albany. That could be up to upstate, whatever county you represent. But let's mandate that they do that, as opposed to giving them just an option. Because if we don't do that, then what we're doing is we're really sacrificing public safety in the interest of convenience. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Ransonofer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to
Senator Ransonofer on the bill.
I'd like to commend the sponsor for his leadership on this bill to try to bring Uber and transportation services to upstate New York, particularly Western New York. And as I look through the organizations and individuals that are in support of this, I look at the Amherst Chamber of Commerce, I look at the Buffalo Bills, I look at the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, I look at the Buffalo Sabres, I look at Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I look at the Rochester Business Alliance and others. And it's just amazing that we are having this debate, and I've listened very closely to everybody on both sides of the issue. And I think everybody is comfortable with the insurance limits, and what it really boils down to is what type of control. And all this bill does is have the exact same system that is currently in existence right now for New York City. New York City is not mandated to do this. New York City on their own has chosen to regulate this particular industry, just like every other municipality is going to choose to regulate this industry. But when this was available for New York City and actually across the country, this is something that is done on a local level. And it's just amazing to me that we have a service which is going to save lives for people that are going out and eating and drinking and will not get in their car, but they'll be able to call for a transportation service. We have people that work in Buffalo, and Senator Kennedy had alluded to this earlier with the parking, the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. I mean, this is something that everybody across the state wants, and it also provides the protections that you're clamoring for with a system that is in place right now and working well in a locality in this state. I am very, very much in favor of this. I think this is sorely needed. I have the app on my phone, but I can't use it because this is stalled right now over a question of whether or not we should have local control, which is exactly the system that we have in New York City. We have local control. So I'm very comfortable with the explanation and the leadership provided by Senator Seward. It would be a shame if we left this session and went home and said that, can you believe it, people are actually opposed to instituting these transportation services in the rest of the state. That would be a shame. So I will be voting yes when it comes to a vote, and again, I want to congratulate my colleague on all of his work in trying to provide this very, very important service for my constituent and for constituents all across this great state.
Senator Croce on the bill.
On the bill, Mr. President, I just want to rise to express that I shared some of my colleagues' concerns about security. One of the things that has led me to support this legislation now is the fact that municipalities can, in fact, impose more stringent requirements on security. So if I'm a county, if I'm a town in Suffolk County, I can actually require fingerprinting if I want to. And that legislation is important because I think biometrics for some of these drivers are critical. The other thing I like about it is it's not a cash business. So the individuals have credit card, there's an electronic trail for these individuals who are driving, not only with the companies that they register with, but with those who are paying for it. So there's an electronic trail of those drivers and those records. So I'm gratified to see that the legislation now includes language that would allow municipalities to fingerprint, and I will be voting aye, Mr. President.
Seeing and hearing no, the senator that wishes to be heard, debate is closed. The secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 5, the statute take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Senator Kennedy to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I want to thank the bill's sponsor for bringing this important piece of legislation to the floor. This is going to close the disparity between upstate and downstate in the transportation options that exist. This is going to allow great organizations like Uber and Lyft to take hold in communities that are growing, like the city of Buffalo in Western New York, allowing more transportation options and opportunities for not only the folks that live in our community, but that the folks that are increasingly visiting our great community, Buffalo, Western New York, and the great tourist destination that it is. And I'm very, very honored and proud to stand here in support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kennedy be recorded in the affirmative. Okay, I'm going to need some order in the House, and I'd like those who are voting in negative to please raise your hands again. And Senator Kruger, do you want to explain your vote? And we are on the 2-minute rule. Senator Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm voting no on this bill because it's a fundamentally flawed model of where we should be going. I believe we can get there. This is a one-house bill, and so we will have future opportunities to have a broader discussion of how to do this correctly. I hear my colleagues from throughout the state saying, we want this, we need this. I don't disagree with them. They say New York City has this, it's working. New York City has this under a very specific regulatory model. That's not what this bill offers us. A bill could offer us something like that, but this is not what happens. And the fact is, even though it is just an insurance bill, which has been said over and over again, and would leave the localities the ability to create their own taxi and limousine commissions with all the bells and whistles for protections that New York City has built in. Frankly, I don't see that as realistic from an operational or economic perspective. And simply creating a bill that has an insurance standard and none of the other protections or evening of the playing field realities that I think you need to have leaves one or two companies in the position to say to every locality, you take us or you leave us, you don't get to regulate us. I think it's a mistake to go down this road. I hope we come up with a better road so that we can have improved options for accessing rides by people who don't have vehicles of their own or shouldn't be driving vehicles of their own. This is a tough one, but it's a no, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Kruger to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1283, those recorded in the negative are Senators Adabo, Avella, Comrie, Espaillat, Hamilton, Kruger, Montgomery, Panapinto, Peralta, Perkins, Persaud, Rivera, Sanders, Savino, Serrano, Stavisky, also Senator Dilan. Absent from voting, Senator Parker. Ayes 44, nays 17.
The bill is passed. Senator DeFrancisco, that completes the reading of the controversial active list for today.
I'd like to now call an immediate meeting of the Finance Committee in room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Finance Committee in room 332, and the Senate will stand temporarily at ease.
Do the nominations or the confirmations, and once those are done, we're going to break for a Democrat conference and an independent conference if they choose, and possibly one for the Republicans. And the plan is, depending on how long it takes to start the finance nominations, the plan will then be to give you a period of time within which we will adjourn and move to rules for another set of bills. So as soon as members come in that have anything to do with the Finance Committee, we'll get started.
Can I have some order, please?
Is there a report of the Finance Committee at the desk?
There is a report of the Finance Committee at the desk.
Could you read the
Secretary
report?
will read.
Senator Young from the Committee on Finance reports the following nominations. As members of the Port of Oswego Authority, Thomas W. Schneider of Oswego, Amy Morrell Tree-Sitter of Oswego, John Enright of Oswego. As members of the Industrial Board of Appeals, Glorabelle Perez of New York, Molly Doherty of New York. As Commissioner of the State Insurance Fund, Navnet Kathuria of New York. As member of the State Athletic Commission, Dee Dee Massey of Nyack. As member of the Long Island State Park Recreation Historic Preservation Commission, Sue Gordon Ryan of Point Lookout. As members of the New York State Council on the Arts, Elise McCabe Thompson of New York, Catherine Nichols of Roseland Harbor, Estrelita B. Brodsky of New York. As members of the New York State Bridge Authority, Roderick O. Dressel of New Paltz, Diane L. Jablonski of Poughkeepsie, Richard Gerantine of Marlborough. As member of the Central New York Regional Transportation Authority, Robert F. Kukulich of Liverpool. As member of the State Board of Real Property Tax Services, Scott C. Becker of Buffalo. As member of the Republic Airport Commission, Frank A. Nocerino of North Massapequa. As members of the Justice Center Advisory Council, Joseph M. Macbeth of Altamont, Glenn Liebman of Albany, Norwig Debbie Saxinger of Kinderhook, Sylvia Lask of the Bronx. As members of the Administrative Review Board for Professional Medical Conduct, Stephen V. Grabiak of Grand Island, Peter S. Koenig Sr. of DeWitt. As members of the Council on Human Blood and Transfusion Services, Philip McCarthy, MD of Williamsville, and Timothy Hilbert, MD of New York.
Senator Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the nominations.
Thank you, Senator Young. Senator Espaillat.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, we have a list of nominees for non-paid positions in different commissions and councils and the insurance fund and authorities who were not here today to discuss their views as to what they will be doing if appointed. I have a larger list of about 80 potential appointments to be taken up before the end of this session, 3 of which only are Latino members. Now, we have a report put together by the New York State Assembly Puerto Rican Hispanic Task Force entitled, "Wanted a Seat at the Table." And we know that if we're not at the table, we will be eating for lunch. And so this particular report focuses only on the authorities and focuses on 40 of the 700 public authorities which incurred in massive debt for the state, which issue contracts, which are an important integral part of New York State government, quasi-governmental agencies. Their membership on the board are appointed often, if not almost entirely, by the governor, and in some cases by the mayor of the city of New York or local jurisdictions. And this report shows that out of those 40 authorities looked at, only 4% of the membership was of Hispanic descent, and only 6% of the membership were African American. So 10% out of these authorities' membership in the boards are either Hispanic or African American. This is not consistent with the population of the state of New York or the city of New York, for that matter. That shows that 15% of the population of the state of New York is African American, and 60% is Hispanic, and 7% is Asian. So this continues to be a real problem that imagine a government without women. Imagine authorities and all the board members were male. Or imagine even authorities where all the board members came from the city of New York. They didn't come from different regions. This is really a problem. You know, I am concerned about diversity in this board and the lack of participation, the lack of effort to bring qualified people to be members of these boards. And for that reason, Mr. President, I will be voting in the negative on all nominations.
Okay, the question is on the Senator Ort.
To the appointments, I might be ahead of myself, on the Justice Center. And the members of the Board of Review for Personal and Professional Medical Conduct, as well as all of these nominations, but particularly the Justice Center. The Justice Center is, for those who don't know, is a very, very important agency that was created that has a great impact on employees of the state, as well as employees of nonprofits who work with folks with developmental disability, who work with folks who have mental health related challenges. They also have a huge impact on the safety of our most vulnerable residents. It's a very important board that has both its detractors and its proponents. But the bottom line is, we got these nominations for this very important board at the last minute. And so regardless of, for me, the background or their ethnicity, we don't even really have time to properly vet these individuals who serve on critical boards. So it's just, to me, so much harder to tell people who have a loved one with a developmental disability, or a worker who's under investigation by the Justice Center, or someone who says they're not moving fast enough. It's hard to articulate that we put a priority on this population when we simply rubber stamp or are put in a position to rubber stamp these nominees. And I think a lot of my colleagues here share that view. The legislature has a role to play, and it's not to just sweep all these through, but it's to properly vet, to ask questions, to find out what these people bring to the table without just looking at a resume. You wouldn't do that if you were hiring someone from a job, and you certainly shouldn't do it. It's not good government, it's not good business, and it doesn't require reforms, it just requires people to do their jobs the proper way. I'm going to be voting for the nominees to the Justice Center specifically because I know some of them, and I know they bring good perspective, and they bring proper credentials, and they care about this community. However, it's an important point that we as a legislature need to make to the executive. These positions, we could have received these nominations at any point in the past 6 months. At any point. To receive them now, to me, is insulting not only to us, but it's insulting to the members on this piece of paper, the nominees, and it's especially insulting to the people that these boards, they impact their lives, whether it's workers of the state, whether it's people with developmental disabilities, or people with mental health, or anybody that falls under the Justice Center. So, Mr. President, I will be voting aye. However, I think it's very important that going forward, we as a legislature stand up and say either we get the nominations in a timely manner or we won't act on them until the next session. So, thank you.
The question is on the names as read for the positions as indicated. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Accordingly, the names presented for the positions that have been identified are confirmed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you now please recognize Senator Valesky?
Senator Valesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. There'll be an immediate meeting of the Independent Democratic Conference in room 432 of the Capitol.
There'll be an immediate meeting of the Independent Democratic Conference in room 432 in the Capitol. Senator DeFrancisco.
Now would you recognize Senator Serrano?
Senator Serrano.
Thank you, Mr. President. There'll be an immediate meeting of the Democratic Conference in room 315.
There'll be an immediate meeting of the Democratic Conference in room 315.
And lastly, we will reconvene in room 332 at 1:20 for the next Rules Committee meeting. So at 1:20, a meeting of the Rules Committee in 332. Until then, we'll stand at ease.
There'll be a Rules Committee meeting in room 332 at 1:20 p.m. Until such time, the Senate stands at ease. Senate will come to order.
Mr. President, it's my understanding you have a report of the Rules Committee at the desk.
Senator DeFrancisco, there is a report of the Rules Committee at the desk, and the Secretary will read.
Senator Flanagan from the Committee on Rules reports the following bills. Senate Print 5523 by Senator Boyle, enact amend the tax law. Senate 5597 by Senator Flanagan, enact amend Chapter 97 of laws of 2011. Senate 5846 by Senator Larkin, enact amend the education law. Senate 5936B by Senator Ritchie, enact amend the retirement and Social Security law. Senate 6032B by Senator Croce, enact amend the executive law. Senate 6039 by Senator Golden, enact amend the general municipal law. Senate 6049 by Senator DeFrancisco, enact amend the labor law. Senate 6079 by Senator Latimer, enact amend Chapter 381 of the laws of 2010. Senate 6097 by Senator Breslin, enact amend Chapter 105 of the laws of 2009. Senate 6312 by Senator Hannan, enact amend the state finance law. Senate 6340A by Senator Lanza, enact amend the multiple dwellings law. Senate 6787 by Senator Robach, enact amend the penal law. Senate 6948A by Senator Hannan, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 7378 by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the workers' compensation law. Senate 7442 by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the general municipal law. Senate 7477 by Senator Breslin, an act to amend Chapter 454 of the laws of 2010. Senate 7606 by Senator Amador, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 7640A by Senator Gallivan, an act to amend the general municipal law. Senate 7663 by Senator Ort, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 7832 by Senator Ritchie, an act to amend the penal law. Senate 7850 by Senator Larkin, an act to amend the general municipal law. Senate 7907 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the local finance law. Senate 7944 by Senator Golden, an act to amend the civil service law. Senate 7946 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the public health law. Senate 8002 by Senator DeFrancisco, an act to amend the civil practice law and rules. Senate 8019 by Senator Amador, an act to amend the racing pari-mutuel wagering and breeding law. Senate 8083 by Senator Felder, an act to amend the education law. Senate 8101 by Senator Carlucci, an act to amend the mental hygiene law. And Senate 8123 by Senator Lanza, an act to amend the arts and cultural affairs law. All bills reported direct to third reading.
Senator DeFrancisco.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All in favor of accepting the Rules Committee report, say aye. Opposed? The Rules Committee report has been accepted and is before the House.
Thank you. Are there messages from the Assembly?
There are messages. Senator DeFrancisco and the Secretary will read.
Senator Latimer moves to discharge the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 9072 and substitute for the identical Senate Bill 6079, third reading calendar 1961. Senator Breslin moves to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 8607 and substitute for the identical Senate Bill 6097, third reading calendar 1962. Senator Lanza moved to discharge the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 8704C and substitute for the identical Senate Bill 6348, third reading calendar 1964. Senator Breslin moved to discharge from the Committee on Transportation Assembly Bill number 9997 and substitute for the identical Senate Bill 7477, third reading calendar 1969. Senator Gallivan moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 10249A and substitute the identical Senate Bill 7648, third reading calendar 1972. Senator Larkin moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 10210 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 7850, third reading calendar 1975. Senator Lanza moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 10120 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 7907, third reading calendar 1976. Senator Golden moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 10445 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 7944, third reading calendar 1977. Senator Amador moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 6124C and substitute the identical Senate Bill 8019, third reading calendar 1980. Senator Carlucci moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 9171A and substitute the identical Senate Bill 8101, third reading calendar 1982. And Senator Lanza moved to discharge from the Committee on Rules Assembly Bill number 10713 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 8123, third reading calendar 1983.
The substitutions are so ordered. Senator DeFrancisco.
We have on our desks a calendar, supplemental calendar 56A. Could we please do the non-controversial reading of that calendar?
We will refer to supplemental calendar 56A, which is on the members' desks, and the Secretary will read.
Calendar number 1954 by Senator Boyle, Senate Print 5523, an act amending the tax law.
Last section. Lay it aside.
Calendar number 1955 by Senator Flanagan, Senate Print 5597, act amending Chapter 97 of the laws of 2011.
Last section.
Section 2, this act should take effect immediately.
Call a roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. In relation to calendar 1955, those recorded in the negative are Senators Comrie, DeLon, Hoylman, Kruger, Montgomery, Penapinto, Perkins, Persaud, Rivera, Serrano, and Squadron. Also, Senator Hassel-Thompson. Ayes 50, nays 12.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1956 by Senator Larkin, Senate Print 5846, an act amending the education law.
Last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 62.
Bill is passed.
In relation to calendar 1956, ayes 61, nays 1. Senator Ranzenhofer recorded in the negative.
Bill still passed.
Calendar number 1957 by Senator Ritchie, Senate Print 5936B, an act amending the retirement and Social Security law.
Last section.
Section 3, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Ayes 61, nays 1. Senator Kruger recorded in the negative.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1958 by Senator Croce, Senate Print 6032B, an act amending executive law.
Last section.
Section 5, this act should take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young.
Senator Rivera to explain his vote, and I'm going to ask for some order in the House again. Can I have some order, please? Senator Rivera, you may explain your vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm afraid, my colleagues and Mr. President, that this bill is named incorrectly. It purports to be in relation to creating the New York CARES Act. I would argue that it is the New York Does Not Care Act. What it would do ultimately is take folks that are in our state, different parts of our state, who have children here, who work here, who are neighbors, who are students in classrooms, and it basically makes it easier for localities to criminalize them. Now, we certainly can have a conversation, and unfortunately at the national level there has been a failure to reform our immigration system. However, I do not believe that the best way to deal with this is to take what amounts to millions of people across the country and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands in the state of New York, and make it easier for localities to criminalize their behavior, particularly if we're talking about men and women who are here trying to make lives better for themselves and their families, who might have children here, who might be potentially targeted for deportation, where so many families have been broken up already. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that this is not only incorrectly named, but should be defeated, and I would encourage my colleagues to do the same. I will be voting in the negative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Rivera to be recorded in negative. Senator Espaillat to explain his vote.